My name is Donald. I am 42 years old, and I have slept on cold streets for many years of my life. This is the truth I carry in my chest every day. I was not born on the street. I had a home once. I had a mother who sang in the kitchen, and a father who fixed my school bag when the zip broke. I still see their faces when I close my eyes at night. I wake up early even now. It is a habit that never left me. On the street, morning is not soft. Morning is noise. Buses move, people walk fast, shops open their metal doors with a hard sound. I used to fold my small blanket and hide it behind a broken wall before the sun came out. I did not want people to see where I slept. I did not want to look like I had nothing. Before all that, my life was simple. We lived in a small house with a blue door. My mother liked that door. She said blue made her feel calm. My father worked as a driver. Every evening he came home tired, but he always touched my head and asked about my day. I was their only child. I did not know that love could end in one afternoon. The day of the accident was very normal. That is what makes it stay in my mind. I went to school. I came back home. I ate rice and beans. I waited for my parents. They were late. The sky became dark. I sat near the door and watched the road. I remember the sound of a motorcycle passing. I remember a dog barking. I remember the moment my uncle came. He did not look at me when he entered. He sat down. His hands were shaking. I asked him where my parents were. He did not answer. He only said, "There was an accident." That sentence broke my life into two parts. After the burial, the house became quiet. Too quiet. My uncle started coming often. At first, I thought he wanted to help me. He told me to call him Father. I could not. The words stayed in my throat. He did not like that. He looked at me with eyes that had no warmth. One evening, he told me to pack my things. I thought we were going to another house. I took my school uniform. I took my mother's small cooking spoon. It still smelled like her. We walked for a long time. Then he stopped near a busy road. He put my bag on the ground. He said, "You are old enough to take care of yourself." Then he walked away. I stood there with my bag and my mother's spoon in my hand. I waited for him to come back. I waited until the shops closed. I waited until the street became empty. He did not come back. That was my first night outside. The ground was hard. The air was cold. I did not sleep. I listened to every sound. I was afraid someone would take my bag. I was afraid someone would touch me. I was afraid of everything. But morning still came. Morning always comes. The next days were slow and long. I did not know how to ask for food. The first time I stretched my hand to a stranger, my body shook. The man dropped a coin into my palm without looking at my face. That coin felt heavy. It was not just money. It was the moment I understood my new life. I learned small things. I learned where people threw away food. I learned which shop owner would allow me to stand near the door. I learned how to drink water from a public tap without pushing others. I learned how to stay quiet. Hunger is a strong teacher. It speaks inside your body all the time. But I made a rule for myself. I would not steal. I would not follow boys who ran after people to take their phones. I would not break car windows. I had lost my parents. I did not want to lose myself. Some boys laughed at me. They said I was foolish. They said the street does not reward good behavior. Maybe they were right. Many nights I slept with an empty stomach, but when I closed my eyes, I could still see my mother's face. I wanted to be the kind of son she believed I was. Years passed like that. I grew taller. My clothes became old and thin. I stopped counting my age. People did not ask my name. They called me, "Hey you," or "Move away." So I started calling myself Donald again in my mind. I did not want to forget who I was. My days had a pattern. I woke up before the sun. I washed my face at the tap near the market. I folded my blanket carefully. I walked to the same corner near a bakery. The smell of bread came out every morning. That smell was warm. It made me feel human. Sometimes a kind woman who worked there gave me a small piece. She never asked questions. She just placed it in my hand and said, "Eat." Those small moments kept me alive. In the afternoon, I sat under a big tree near the bus stop. I watched people's shoes. I do not know why I watched shoes so much. Maybe because shoes tell a story. Some were shiny and strong. Some were broken and tired. Some moved fast. Some moved slowly. When you live on the street, you look down a lot, so shoes become your world. At night, I spoke to my parents in my head. I told them I was trying. I told them I was not a thief. I told them I was still their son. Sometimes I felt they could hear me. Sometimes the silence was too deep. One morning, many years later, I saw my face in a piece of broken mirror near a trash bin. I stopped and looked. I did not recognize the man. His beard was rough. His eyes were older than his years. That was the moment I counted my age again. I was already a grown man. Life on the street did not change quickly. It moved like a tired clock. But inside me, something stayed straight and firm. I still woke up early. I still washed my face. I still said thank you when someone gave me a coin. Discipline was the only thing I owned. There was a school not far from my sleeping place. Every morning, children passed in clean uniforms. Their bags were full. Their laughter was loud. I did not feel anger. I only felt a quiet pain. I used to be one of them. I used to carry books. One day, a small boy stopped in front of me. He looked at me for a long time. Children do not hide their eyes like adults. He asked, "Where is your house?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I pointed at the sky and said, "There." He smiled as if he understood. Then his mother pulled his hand and they walked away. That question stayed in my heart for many days. When the weather was hot, the street smelled of dust and smoke. When it was cold, the ground felt like stone. But I stayed in the same area. I did not want to move far. Familiar places give a small feeling of safety. Sometimes, in the late evening, I helped a man who sold fruits to carry his empty boxes. He did not pay me with money. He gave me 2 bananas. Those bananas tasted better than any food in the world. They were not just food. They were respect. Respect is a rare thing when you live outside. Years later, people in the area started to know me as the quiet, homeless man who did not cause trouble. They knew I would not fight. They knew I would not steal. Some of them nodded when they passed me. That small nod was like a handshake. It told me I still existed. My life was simple, but inside me there was a deep room full of memories. My mother's song, my father's tired smile, the blue door, the day my uncle walked away. I carried all of it in silence. I did not know that my life was moving slowly toward a moment that would change everything, not with noise, not with drama, but with one human action. At that time, I was still sitting under the big tree every afternoon, watching the road, watching the shoes, holding my small cup for coins, and telling myself, stay honest, stay alive, stay Donald. Life on the street teaches you how to see small changes. You notice when a shop changes its sign. You notice when a new guard stands at a gate. You notice when a child grows taller. My world was not large, so every small difference felt important. There was a drainage beside the main road near the bus stop. It was wide and deep. The water inside was dark and slow. People walked past it every day without looking. During the dry season, it smelled bad. During the wet season, it became full and dangerous. I always stayed away from the edge because the ground there was broken. I knew that place well. I had watched plastic bottles float inside it. I had seen rats run along the wall. I had seen children throw stones into it and laugh when the water moved. One afternoon, the sky was heavy and gray. The air was thick and still. People were walking faster than usual because they wanted to reach their homes. I was sitting under my tree, holding my cup, but there were not many people around. Then the rain started. It was not a light rain. It came down with force. The sound on the road was loud. Water ran quickly along the sides and rushed into the drainage. In a short time, the dark water inside it rose higher and moved faster. People ran for cover. Shops pulled down their metal doors halfway. I stood up and moved closer to a wall so my blanket would not get wet. My clothes were already soaked, but I was used to that. In the middle of the noise, I heard a small cry. At first I thought it was a cat. Then I heard it again. It was a child's voice. I walked slowly toward the sound. The rain was strong and the ground was slippery. Near the drainage, I saw a small school bag lying on the road. It was bright red. One side of it was open and books were falling out. My heart started to beat fast. I moved closer and looked down into the drainage. A boy was inside. He was not floating. He was holding a piece of broken wood that had stopped between the walls. The water was pushing against his body. His legs were in the dark water and his hands were shaking. His eyes were wide with fear. He tried to call for help, but the rain covered his voice. For 1 second, my body did not move. I looked around. People were far away, running from the rain. No one was near enough to see him. The water was rising quickly. The boy's fingers were slipping from the wood. I did not think about my clothes. I did not think about the smell of the water. I did not think about the danger. I climbed down. The wall was wet and rough. My foot slipped once and my knee hit the concrete. Pain moved through my leg, but I did not stop. The water was cold and strong. It pushed against my body as if it wanted to take me too. The boy saw me and started crying louder. "Please," he said. That one word was very small, but it filled the whole space. I moved slowly because the ground inside the drainage was not flat. My feet could not find a strong place to stand. I held the wall with one hand and reached for him with the other. "Look at me," I said. My voice was calm, but inside I was afraid. "Do not let go." His fingers were white. The wood moved under his weight. The water touched my waist. It was rising. I took another step. My foot went deep into something soft and I almost fell. I held the wall and pushed my body forward. Now I was close enough to see the mud on his face and the tears mixing with the rain. "Give me your hand," I said. He tried. His hand slipped. I moved closer and held his arm. His body was very light. I pulled him toward me and placed him against my chest. He held my neck tightly. His heart was beating very fast. I could feel it. The water pushed against my back as I turned toward the wall. Climbing up with the boy in my arms was harder. My wet clothes made me heavy. My hands searched for a strong place on the wall. One step, then another. My foot slipped again, but this time I did not fall. I pushed my knee against the wall and lifted the boy higher. He was crying into my shoulder. I could not see clearly because the rain was in my eyes. A man appeared above us. He lay on the ground and stretched his hand down. "Give him to me," he shouted. I lifted the boy as high as I could. The man caught him and pulled him up. Then two more hands reached for me. They held my arms and pulled me out of the drainage. When I stood on the road again, my body was shaking. Not from cold, from the weight of the moment. The boy was lying on the ground, coughing and crying. A woman ran toward him from across the road. She screamed his name. Her voice broke in the middle. She held him and looked at his face again and again, as if she wanted to make sure he was real. Then her eyes moved to me. Those eyes were full of fear. She stood up quickly and pulled the boy behind her. "What did you do to him?" she asked. Her voice was sharp. People around us started to look. Some of them moved closer. I tried to speak, but no words came out. My chest was still moving fast from the effort. The boy held her dress and said, "Mommy, he helped me. He carried me." But she did not hear him at first. She was looking at my clothes, my wet hair, my bare feet. I knew what she saw. She saw a homeless man standing near her child. That moment hurt more than the cold water. I lowered my eyes. I did not want to cause more fear. I picked up the boy's red school bag from the ground and held it out to her with both hands. The boy spoke again, louder this time. "Mommy, he came inside. He pulled me up." The woman looked at her son's face. She saw the mud on his arms. She saw the red mark on his wrist where I had held him. Slowly, her breathing changed. The man who had helped pull us out of the drainage said, "Madam, this man saved your child. We all saw it." There was a long silence. The rain was still falling, but it felt softer now. The woman stepped closer to me. Her eyes were different. The fear was gone. Something else was there. Something warm and heavy. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was low. It was not a big word, but it reached a place inside me that had been empty for many years. I nodded. I did not know what to say. I wanted to leave because many people were watching. I did not like being seen. The boy moved from behind her and came to me. He held my hand for a second. His small fingers were warm. "Thank you," he said again. No one had held my hand like that in a very long time. The woman looked at me carefully, not at my clothes, not at my feet. She looked at my face. "Where do you stay?" she asked. I pointed toward the corner near the bakery, the same answer I always gave. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "What is your name?" My throat felt tight. I had not said my name to someone with respect in many years. "Donald," I answered. She repeated it softly, as if she wanted to remember it. "Donald." A car stopped beside us. Someone called her name. She turned to go, then stopped again. "Come tomorrow," she said. "Come to Rose Fashions and ask for Mrs. Carter." I did not move. I thought I had heard wrong. She looked at me once more and said, Please come." Then she left with her son. I stood there in the rain long after they were gone. My body was still wet, my knee was bleeding, my cup for coins was lost somewhere near the drainage, but inside me there was a small light that had not been there before. I walked back to my place under the tree and sat down. People passed me, but I did not raise my hand for coins. I only repeated the words in my mind. Come tomorrow. For many years, tomorrow had been the same as today. But that night, tomorrow felt different. That night, I did not sleep. I lay on my small piece of cardboard and watched the dark sky. The word tomorrow moved inside my head again and again. I was afraid to believe it. Many times in my life, hope had come like a visitor and left without saying goodbye. I did not want to feel that pain again. But I also did not want to lose the chance. Before the sun came up, I stood and went to the public tap. I washed my face longer than usual. I washed my arms. I tried to clean my shirt with water and my hands. The stains did not go away, but I kept rubbing. I cleaned my trousers as much as I could. I even tried to smooth my hair by looking at my face in a broken mirror. I wanted to look like a man who respected the invitation. The bakery woman saw me and gave me a piece of bread. She looked at me with surprise because I was already clean and ready so early. I smiled at her. It was a small smile, but it felt new on my face. Rose Fashions was not far from the main road, but for me, the walk felt long. I had passed that building many times before. It was a large place with wide glass windows. Inside, I had seen bright lights and women working with colorful clothes. I had never imagined that I would enter through the front door. When I reached the gate, I stopped. My feet did not want to move. A security man stood there in a neat uniform. He looked at me with the same eyes I had seen many times in my life, eyes that asked, "Why are you here?" I came to see Mrs. Carter," I said. He frowned. "For what?" My voice became small. "She asked me to come. My name is Donald." He looked at me again. Then he picked up a phone and spoke to someone inside. Those few seconds felt like a long test. I held my hands together so he would not see them shaking. After a while, he nodded and opened the gate. "Go to the reception." Reception. I had heard that word before, but I had never stood in such a place. The floor was shining. The air smelled clean. A woman sat behind a table and looked at a computer. I stood far from the table because I was afraid my wet shoes would leave marks. "Yes?" she asked. "I am Donald," I said. "Mrs. Carter asked me to come." She looked at a paper on her table, then looked at me again. Her face changed. It became softer. "Please sit," she said. Sit. That simple word made my chest tight. I had not sat on a chair in many years. I walked slowly to the chair and lowered myself carefully, as if the chair could break. After some minutes, Mrs. Carter came out of a door. She was wearing a light blue dress. Her hair was tied back neatly. She looked different from the woman in the rain, but her eyes were the same. "Donald," she said with a warm voice. She remembered my name. I stood up quickly. I did not know what to do with my hands. I wanted to greet her properly, but I was afraid to touch her. "Come with me," she said. Her office was simple but beautiful. There were shoes on one side of the room, many types of women's shoes in different colors. I looked at them with interest, without knowing why. She asked me to sit again. Then she sat in front of me. "I've been thinking about you since yesterday," she said. "You saved my son. I cannot forget that." I lowered my eyes. I only did what anyone would do. She shook her head slowly. Not everyone would go down into that water. There was silence for a moment. "Do you have work?" she asked. I smiled a little. It was a sad smile. She understood. "I need a janitor," she continued. "The work is not easy. You will clean the floors, the toilets, the compound. You will come early every day. You must be disciplined." Discipline. That word had been my only friend for years. "I can do it," I said quickly. She looked at me carefully, not with pity, but with trust. "You will have a small room at the back to rest during the day. You will have 2 uniforms, and you will be paid every month." Paid. My heart started to beat fast again, like the day I saw the boy in the drainage. Tears came into my eyes before I could stop them. I turned my face away because I did not want her to see a grown man crying. "Thank you," I said. The words were very small compared to what I felt. That was the first day of my new life. My work started the next morning. I came before everyone else. The security man greeted me with a nod. That nod meant I now belonged there in a small way. The cleaning tools were kept in a small store. I touched each one carefully. Broom, mop, bucket, soap. They were simple things, but to me they were tools of dignity. I began with the floor of the main hall. I swept slowly, pushing the dust into a neat line. I mopped the tiles until I could see the light from the ceiling inside them. I cleaned the glass doors with a cloth until they became clear. Every movement had meaning. When the workers arrived, some of them looked at me with surprise. They had seen me outside before. Now I was inside, wearing a uniform with the name of the company on it. Some of them greeted me, some of them did not. That was normal. Respect grows slowly. The toilets were the hardest part. The smell was strong. The work was heavy. But I did not complain. Each time I finished cleaning one, I stepped back and looked at it with quiet pride. It was clean because of my hands. During my break, I sat in the small room at the back. It had a chair and a narrow bed. There was a small window. Light came through it and fell on the floor in a square shape. I used to sit there and watch that light move. I ate my food slowly. Real food. Rice, sometimes bread and tea. I did not need to beg for it. That simple change filled my heart with peace. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. I learned the rhythm of the place, the sound of sewing machines, the laughter of the women during lunch, the way the manager checked the finished clothes, the smell of new fabric. There was a shelf in the corner where damaged shoes were kept. Customers left them for repair or threw them away. Every time I passed that shelf, my eyes stayed there for a moment. One afternoon, Mrs. Carter saw me looking. "Do you like shoes?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "I used to watch people's shoes on the street," I said. "You can know a person by the way their shoes move." She smiled. "There is a small shoemaking school 3 streets from here. Some of my workers go there after work to learn. If you are interested, you can also go." I did not answer immediately. My heart was afraid to want too much. "It is in the evening," she continued. "Your work finishes by 4. You will have time." That evening, after I finished cleaning, I stood outside the building for a long time, looking at the road that led to the school. I had a job. I had a place to rest. I had food. Could I also have a future? I started walking. The shoemaking school was in a small building with a wooden sign. Inside, the smell of leather and glue filled the air. Men and women sat on long benches with tools in their hands. Some were cutting leather, some were sewing, some were shaping soles with small hammers. The teacher looked at me and asked, "Do you want to learn?" My voice came out stronger than I expected. Yes. That night, I held a piece of leather in my hand for the first time. It was firm, but soft at the same time. The teacher showed me how to cut along a line without shaking. My first cut was not straight. I felt ashamed. He said, "It is your first day. Your hand will learn." For the first time in many years, I was learning something new. My life began to move in a quiet, steady line. Every morning I arrived at Rose Fashions before the sun. I opened the windows so fresh air could enter. I swept the compound and watched the dust rise in soft clouds. I mopped the long hall until the floor shone like still water. When the workers came in, the place was already clean. Some of them started to call me by my name. "Good morning, Donald." Those 2 words were simple, but they built a new person inside me. In the afternoon, I rested for a short time in my small room. I removed my shoes and stretched my legs on the narrow bed. Sometimes I closed my eyes, but I did not sleep. I only listened to the sounds of work around me: sewing machines moving, scissors cutting cloth, soft music from someone's phone. These sounds were no longer far from me. They were part of my day. At 4 o'clock, I washed my hands and face, changed my shirt, and walked to the shoemaking school. I never missed a day. The first weeks were difficult. My fingers were stiff. The needle hurt my skin. The leather did not obey me. My lines were not straight. My stitches were not equal. When I hit the sole with the small hammer, the sound was weak. But I was not afraid of slow progress. The street had already taught me patience. The teacher, Mr. Harris, was a quiet man with careful eyes. He did not talk too much. When my work was poor, he only said, "Again." When it was better, he nodded once. That nod became my reward. Every night, I carried my small practice pieces back to my room behind the factory. I looked at them under the yellow light and touched the rough edges. I could see my improvement day by day. My hands were learning a new language. On Sundays, the school was closed, but I still practiced. I collected thrown-away pieces of leather from a repair shop near the bus stop. The owner allowed me to take them. I sat outside my small room and cut, stitched, and shaped them again and again. My fingers became stronger. The needle stopped hurting. The hammer began to make a clear, confident sound. One evening, Mr. Harris placed a full shoe in front of me. "Today, you will complete this," he said. It was a simple black shoe for a man. Not too big, not too small. Perfect in its shape. I touched it with care as if it were alive. It took me many hours. I cut slowly. I stitched with full attention. I fixed the sole with steady hands. When I finished, I placed it on the table and stepped back. It was not perfect, but it was a shoe that could be worn. My chest filled with a deep, warm feeling. It was the same feeling I had when Mrs. Carter first called my name, the feeling of becoming someone again. Months passed. My work as a janitor became faster and better. I knew every corner of the building. I knew how to remove difficult stains. I knew how to make the mirrors shine without leaving marks. Mrs. Carter trusted me with keys. That trust was more valuable than money. Sometimes her son visited the factory after school. His name was Daniel. Each time he saw me, he ran to greet me. "Donald, look at my new shoes," he would say. He always showed me his shoes. One day he asked, "Can you make shoes?" I looked at him and smiled. "I am learning." He said, "Make one for me when you finish." That request stayed in my heart like a promise. The turning point of my life did not come with noise. It came on a quiet evening in the shoemaking school. Mr. Harris placed several finished shoes on the table. All of them were made by students. He asked us to look at them carefully and choose the best one. I walked around the table slowly. I looked at the lines. I touched the stitching. I lifted each shoe and felt its weight. Then I saw one pair that made my breath stop. The stitches were straight and calm. The leather was smooth. The sole was strong. It was not beautiful in a loud way. It was beautiful in a quiet, honest way. I turned it and saw a small mark inside. It was my mark. I had made that pair 2 weeks before and forgotten about it because I thought it was only average. "Why are you looking at it for so long?" Mr. Harris asked. "I did not know it was good," I said softly. He looked at me for a long moment. "You are still seeing yourself as the man you used to be," he said, "but your hands are telling a different story." That sentence entered my heart and opened a door. For many years, I had lived as a man who survived, a man who cleaned, a man who begged. Even when my life changed, my mind stayed in the past. I was still standing on the street in my thoughts. That evening, as I held the shoe I had made, I understood something simple and clear. I was no longer only the homeless man. I was a man who could create. I walked back to my small room slowly that night. I did not feel the ground under my feet. I only felt a quiet light inside my chest. I sat on my bed and placed my hands on my knees. "These hands," I said to myself, "can build a future." After that day, I worked with a new kind of energy. Not fast, not rushed, but full of purpose. When I finished my training, Mr. Harris gave me my certificate. The paper was thin, but when I held it, it felt heavier than all the coins I had collected in my years on the street. Mrs. Carter called me into her office when she heard the news. "I'm proud of you, Donald," she said. I looked down because I did not know how to carry such words. "I want to help you start," she continued. "There is a small empty store near the market. You can use it. Pay me back slowly when your business grows." Tears came into my eyes again, but this time I did not turn away. I let them fall. My shop was very small. One chair, one table, a shelf for leather, a sign above the door that read, "Donald Men's Shoes." The first day I opened it, no customer came. I sat there and watched the road just as I had done for many years. But this time I was not holding a cup for coins. I was holding a tool for work. On the third day, a man entered. He looked at the shoes on the shelf and asked, "Did you make these?" "Yes," I answered. He bought one pair. When he left, I sat down slowly because my legs were shaking. I touched the money in my hand, and then I touched the shoe that was still on the shelf. It was real. Months later, my shop became known for strong, simple men's shoes. People said they lasted long. People said they were comfortable. Some customers never knew my past. Some did. It did not matter. Every morning, I still woke up early. I still folded my blanket, but now it was on a real bed in a small rented room. I still washed my face at a tap, but now it was inside my own space. Discipline remained my closest friend. Sometimes I walked past the old place under the big tree. I saw another man sitting there with a cup in his hand. I always stopped and greeted him. I gave him food, not coins. I looked into his eyes so he would know he was seen. I never forgot the street. The street was the long road that led me to myself. One afternoon, Daniel came to my shop with his mother. He was taller now. He placed his foot on my measuring stool and said, "You promised to make me a shoe." I measured his foot carefully. I worked on his pair for many days, giving it all my attention. When he wore it for the first time, he walked around the shop with a proud smile. Mrs. Carter looked at me with the same warm eyes she had on the day she called my name. "Donald," she said, "you walked a long way." I shook my head gently. "No," I answered. "I stood up, that is all." Now, when I close my shop in the evening and sit quietly, I think about the boy in the drainage, the rain, the small red school bag, and the moment a woman said my name with respect. My life did not change because of luck. It changed because I held one thing tightly when everything else was lost. I did not allow the street to take my discipline. I lost my parents, I lost my home, I lost many years, but I did not lose the part of me that wanted to stay honest and wake up every morning with a straight heart. And in the end, that small, invisible thing became the key that opened every door. My life is like a pair of shoes made by patient hands. It was cut in pain, shaped in silence, and stitched together slowly, one careful line at a time.